My name is Miranda Cantrell, and the title of my final paper is Equity of Access, Examining the Accessibility of Online Databases for Disabled Users. In the past few decades, our world has been changed entirely by Internet Communication Technologies, or ICTs. A prime example of this would be the advent of online databases. One would think that this switch from physical resources to digital resources housed within these online databases would have leveled the playing field for users of all abilities. But unfortunately, this is not the case for disabled individuals. A large swath of digital resources housed within online databases are still not accessible to disabled users. This lack of accessibility creates barriers that are incredibly frustrating, and in some cases are in direct violation of the law. This paper will define accessibility as it relates to online databases, examine policy measures that have been implemented to promote accessibility, examine the existing literature and historical trends, and look at potential solutions to solve this inequity between disabled users and able users when it comes to online databases. In regards to ICTs, accessibility is defined as the ability for disabled individuals to perceive, understand, navigate, interact with, and contribute to the web. This can be implemented both in the back end of a site, such as within the HTML coding, and within the content of a site, such as creating PDFs that are readable by screen readers. Both the private and public sectors have worked to establish guidelines for web accessibility. The initial push for web accessibility came from the United States government with Section 508, which mandates that the government, federal contractors, and programs receiving federal funding must provide accessible electronic documents. In 1997, the World Wide Web Consortium formed the Web Accessibility Initiative, which has worked with various organizations around the world to create and maintain the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which are considered the international standard for web accessibility. Unfortunately, existing guidelines have done little to spur implementation of accessibility measures beyond the bare minimum in online databases. 3 initial studies by Byerly and Chambers in 2002 and 2003, and Byerly, Chambers, and Thohira in 2007 provided an initial overview of accessibility implementation, which, after a mediocre start, initially appeared to be on the upswing. However, Tatamir and Durrance later found in 2010 that 72% of evaluated databases were either marginally or fully inaccessible. Oswald further notes that EBSCOhost issues observed in a prior 2006 study were still present even 7 years later. And Ode examined in 2015 vendor database tutorials, none of which were completely accessible. Schmitz, Sonderegger, and Sauer hypothesized that a lack of vendor implementation could be due to fears of adversely affecting non-disabled users. However, these same researchers found that robustly accessible sites benefit all users, not just disabled users. Libraries have great influence over vendors with their purchasing power and should develop a robust vendor accessibility policy to guide acquisitions and budgetary decisions. Ostergaard provides an excellent overview of Montana State University's 5 strategies for acquiring accessible electronic information technologies in Accessibility from Scratch. Though multiple parties throughout the decades have had the best of intentions, truly accessible databases are still out of the reach of disabled users. Commercial database vendors may meet bare minimum requirements set by the government, but based on the studies we've examined, can we truly call their products accessible? Despite bleak historical trends, however, there are still signs of progress. As librarians and information professionals, it is our professional duty to critically evaluate the databases we purchase for accessibility, educate ourselves on existing and emerging accessibility practices, and advocate for further implementation of accessibility measures. Thank you for watching.